All right. Right here, I have my girlfriend's 2010 Corolla. It has 250,000 kilometers, and in our entire ownership, the only thing other than regular maintenance that we've had to do is the starter, and that's about it. But now, today, it has a new issue. Yesterday, when we were leaving to go to her parents' place, she lost power, and it's not her battery. So we're going to go through and diagnose to see if it's our alternator, and if it is, then we're going to replace it. Okay, so first what we're going to want to do is test the battery with a multimeter. Basically what we're looking for is for, without any load on the battery itself, to be getting around 12 volts, preferably around 12.5. So we're just going to test to see what condition this battery is in right now. Just not getting a good connection. So 12.26 volts. So this battery has a good capacity. Keep in mind, I just charged it overnight, so that does definitely help, but I did check it yesterday after it was pretty much dead, and it was at 11.6. So I've also tested it separately with a battery tester, so an actual device that just checks battery's condition, and it has a good recharge rate and good capacity, and it's a good battery. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start up the car, and we're going to see how much power we're getting to the battery. Okay, so the car is running. Please ignore the annoying throw-out bearing chirping, because this car is still on its original clutch after 250,000 kilometers, so it makes a little bit of noise right now. So we're going to check to see how much voltage we get now. 11.7. We should be getting around 14 or so. So what we're going to do now is make sure that all the connections are good. I've already tested off camera that these connections are good, so we're just going to make sure that the plugs that go into the alternator itself are properly secure, and we're going to test it again. Alright, so we're going to start by removing this cover. And underneath there is a 10mm bolt. And as you can see, there's a decent amount of corrosion here. So we're going to have to disconnect this, wire it off, reconnect it, and see if that helps our issue. So I've got a small metal wire brush here. I'm just going to try to get rid of as much corrosion as possible on the thing, just to improve the potential connection. Okay, so now that the connection has been tidied up, we're going to reconnect this and see if we end up with a better connection. Okay, so now with the car running again, we're going to check to see what we're getting at the battery. And it looks like nothing changed, so we most definitely have a bad alternator. One other thing you can do with more expensive scan tools, like this one, my Innova 3160 RS, you can actually do an alternator test. So we're gonna do that now, just to make sure. All right, so the instructions here are to have the engine running at normal temperature, which it is, and then to also have the headlights on, which they are. So we are gonna start the test. So increasing engine speed to 2000 RPM and hold it there until the countdown reaches 0. So basically, status, bad. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the alternator. So next, I'm gonna remove this mount here, which is connected by a bolt here and a bolt here. All right. Alright, so now that that is detached, I'm going to take this bolt, thread it back into here, and put it to the side separately, so that way I know where these bolts go. Okay, so now we've got a few 14-inch bolts. I'm going to try to crack those loose. I'm going to take it the rest of the way out with my electric ratchet, because that'll be a lot faster. Seems now that the tension is off, it's a little bit harder to move. It's really stuck. It's strange. I'm gonna hit it with some WD-40. Probably won't do anything. So that bolt is really stuck on there, so I'm gonna use a little breaker bar. So I've been working on this bolt for about 30 minutes now, I'd say. And finally, I mostly broke it loose to the point where I can move it with a breaker bar. Without the breaker bar, it's incredibly hard. And finally, it seems like it's starting to ease up a little bit. This is much more of a workout than I expected it to be. I've never had this much resistance with a bolt like this. Usually once you crack it loose, you know, it might tighten up a little bit, but not too much. I'm starting to feel like the bolt might be like crooked in some way, maybe at an angle. This car has been in 2 accidents, so who knows, right? Finally. I finally got this bolt out. It was an absolute pain. I think there might have been Loctite on it. I'm not entirely sure. This ring here indicates to me that there might have been something. Who knows, maybe it was red. That would suck. But it is now finally out. A few tugs, I got it out. All right, so now that we've got the old alternator out, we're gonna put the new alternator in. So we're gonna wanna make sure it's in the same orientation as before, which should be down like this with the connectors facing outwards. Okay, so we're gonna put the belt back on where it was before, and now we're gonna tighten in the bottom bolt. So now that we've got the bolt slightly in, I'm gonna put the bracket back in up here. Okay, so now that this bracket is attached, but still the serpentine belt is loose, we're gonna continue tightening in that bottom bolt down here. Now, you'll see the serpentine belt is still loose. So, what we're gonna do is just tighten this a tiny bit. And then we're going to tighten this tensioner. All right, so unfortunately my battery died at my parents' place, so I am now at my apartment, and I'm just gonna show you guys the result. So the alternator is in, it is rotating freely. The battery is now showing 14 volts here, and we're just gonna do a little test with our O2 sensor, not O2 sensor, OBD2 reader here, just to show the results properly. All right, so if you look at that, it says the alternator status is good with the voltage of 14 volts. And yeah, so this ended up fixing the car. I already returned the old alternator for a core deposit. And that's it for this video. Just a little replacement. I had some issues with that one bolt that was getting stuck. I looked online and it seems like everybody who works on these cars is having the same issue when they do the alternator. But that's just, it is what it is. But it's in now. It took a couple hours, but you know, honestly, I've done the starter on this car in about 20 minutes, and that was 2 extra bolts, so it's kind of surprising to me that the alternator was this much harder, but it is what it is. So anyways, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one.